Andrew Tate is free, and the feminists and freakish detractors have been having a very, very hard time, including notorious Anon accounts who have been exposed for being predators themselves. Remember, the left accuses great men of what they are guilty of. The blatant absurdity of the prosecution is now so public and shameless in its deluded, twisted, feminine derangement that the new charges are now accusing him of having sex trafficked every single woman in his life and any woman he has ever met, including the mother of his children. And DIICOT have also gotten a judge to allow them to seize anything of value, whether that be watches or any property he has, regardless of if it's related to the case at all or even his ability to escape or, let's say, flee to any other country. This all sounds like a fever dream of revenge dreamt up by one of his ex-girlfriends, but this is currently actually happening in reality. It's now to the point where Andrew is speaking against DIICOT directly, calling them corrupt, as I'm about to show you. And this is something he has never done before. Normally, you try to see him play it off and try to remain, I would say, even a level above professional and a level beyond, adult, which is quite the juxtaposition considering that the attacks against him now are purely juvenile, delusional, and insane. So, of course, you can always tell who the good guys are if you have the ability to think rationally. But many people have been crippled by the resentment of leftism, so they don't have that ability. Keep in mind, most leftists and feminists aren't even able to parse the sentences he's saying here coherently because they've been fed nothing but propaganda in a loop for years. That's going to come into play in a second.
I'm not surprised because DIICOT are corrupt. Thank God the judges in Romania are balanced because DIICOT is a corrupt organization. The prosecutors who are in charge of my case should be investigated for corruption. They laugh and they joke and they say, we've come to take your cars and watches, and they keep making up reasons to keep coming here and stealing from me. This is the fourth time. You have a foreign citizen in your country who's done nothing but say good things for the country, and for the fourth time, DIICOT, trying to steal money, steal cars, steal watches, steal things, have come and broken in my house. There is no reason why you take a full-grown man, after putting him through all the things he's been through, then go through his entire life and find every girl he's ever spoken to, the mothers of his children, his yoga instructor, his friends, anyone he's ever been on a date with, anyone, and say they're all victims of human trafficking with no evidence at all, steal all his things, and then throw him in jail. There's no reason for anybody to do that. They're doing it because they're corrupt and they have a personal vendetta against me. And if Romania wants to be seen as a serious country, because it's a beautiful place, if you want to be seen as a serious country, you need to have serious law.
So the reason this is happening is twofold. One, desperation. The enemies who want to see civilization fall and need a feminized population in order to achieve that and want weak men, poor, demoralized, emasculated, uninspired men are panicking because all of their attacks have failed, and in failing reminded these resentful people of why they are wrong and hate superior men like Andrew Tate in the first place. The second is that the anti-truth, anti-reality campaign from the last year, when initially they tried to convince everyone he was a human trafficker by simultaneously printing that narrative, that was a weeding out process. Because every human capable of thought and not crippled by resentment immediately rejected it and found themselves in battle against the people who couldn't think and were crippled by that resentment, as I mentioned. All normies saw this happening in the mainstream media, across the internet. And as the weak moderate liberals have been doing for years, for the last 5 years, decided not to step in or say anything because they want to avoid conflict and are afraid to confront the deformed radical elements their ideology creates. Obviously, in the last year, Tate's been winning enormously from being let out of jail, being seen as a martyr for masculine greatness, reaching more men than ever before, making them rich and powerful. But at this point, there are only the people who have been defending him for 2 years and the deformed, mentally ill freaks who have disorders, basically. And just, it's really interesting how the internet has brought us to this place where we can have ultra competent men striving for greatness and masculinity, and then literally just mental illness that would get you put in an insane asylum or a home for the unwell if this was even just 20 years ago. Many of these Anon accounts post feverishly every 10 minutes of the day. And of course, we recently saw how openly deformed one of them was. But anyway, what's important to understand is this landscape lays the background for the new allegations that we're seeing now, which don't have to pertain to reality at all. And of course they don't. because the people with disorders and non-functioning brains will repeat any lie in favor of their resentful ideological capture. And the moderates either believed the propaganda or saw the propaganda ensuing and decided to stay silent and leave the situation alone. Either way, each group has kind of already made their decision. And so there's essentially no new people to hold DIICOT accountable for their total, blatant, incoherent, absurd charges. Beyond very limited communities on YouTube and maybe communities on X, considering these absurd claims are going viral. But to me, it's just interesting to see how total greatness in the form of masculinity was met by total deformity. Total wickedness, total evil, pure depravity, the unabashed, unashamed manifestation of complete deformity. I mean, you'd think these people would have shame when they're physically deformed or posting from Anon accounts while Andrew Tate is literally a masculine billionaire changing the lives of young men. But it's the same group of people that call another very prominent man a loser when he literally owns golden skyscrapers. I was talking with somebody about this recently, but the enemies of reality always announce themselves. There are people that literally call a man who owns golden skyscrapers a loser. It's not just that they can't handle reality, it's that they're at war with it. They are at war with truth. Now, of course, we inevitably win because deformity and war with reality, which is objective, always loses considering reality is objective. And this is the reason they're so angry and obsess over power disparities and power dichotomies between people. The charges now are so obviously mentally crippled and disconnected from reality in saying that he can't see his children and that they can seize anything of value that he has, and they're taking his cars and they're accusing him of sex trafficking every single woman in his life, is an admission that they're not even going to try to pretend that they were trying to make sense. They're not even going to try to pretend anymore that they're good people because they are thoroughly in a club of identitarianism, and taking him down is their highest priority. What they don't seem to understand, though, and this is very bizarre, is that they have already lost given how many young men he's reached. Masculinity trumps what they try to do. It trumps the slander. It trumps the incoherent feminine rage based on incoherent notions of group identity and counterfeit virtue. It destroys all of that and replaces it with competence, coherence, and order. And this is what Tate has already inspired, of course, why they also fear him and resent him. But if you like my analysis, be sure to subscribe to the channel and check out my other base videos, because just as masculinity represents order and is really a sophisticated apparatus for embodying objective reality itself, the feminine degeneracy which we've seen permeating culture is actually at the crux of the push for left-wing authoritarianism. And this has been scientifically measured that a feminine temperament and low verbal IQ positively correlates with proclivity to abide in left-wing authoritarianism. And I just released a video yesterday on that topic, so if you want to go see that, check it out, where I describe how feminism and Marxism are conjoined to create this side of deformity and resentment towards reality that we're seeing manifested here. See you guys in the next video.